All right, welcome back to the channel, mates. JL Scott Fishing and Eats. Hope everybody is well. Hope everybody is warm. 36 degrees today, Upper Potomac. Man. Rising water levels. We've seen them rise from about 1.5 to 2 feet all the way up to about 5.4 feet. Water temps 41 degrees to 42 degrees, depending on where you were. Trick to that, mates, is if you could find that 2-degree change. When we found that 43-degree water, there tend to be a lot more smallies around than that closer to 40-degree water in the sections. But a really quick thing for the jerkbait guys fishing today, obviously what's happened in the Upper Potomac with the rising water levels, okay, and the flow, the current flow coming down as part of the rising water event that's happening due to all the rain and all the snow melting and all that stuff above us. What's happening is these smallies are now getting pushed from the middle of the river, and they're getting pushed towards the rocks and the islands between the Maryland side and Middle River. There's a bunch of islands that go down from the Virginia side to the Maryland side. And so the flow of the water coming down and the rising water is pushing the smallies closer to within 20 to 25 yards of the bank, okay, of the islands, or between the island and the main shoreline or the canal towpath area of these sections on the Upper Potomac. And because the water has risen in those sections from about 1 foot deep to over 4 feet deep now, you can actually throw the jerkbait closer to the bank than you normally would want to throw it with its treble hooks, because you have that water volume. And about 3/4 of the way out, not all the way to Middle River, but about 3/4 of the way from the Maryland side to the middle of the Upper Potomac, in the open areas above the islands, below the dam, or above the dam, Old Dam 2, adjacent to Riley's Lock, Seneca Landing, up that way. You may want to get your jerkbait down a little bit. So for those who throw megabass, and other style jerkbaits, that are floating or less suspending jerkbaits, that you want to be able to get down, because in that part above the dam, it could be 5, 6, 7, and even 7 to 7 and 0.2, 0.3 feet, working your way all the way up, okay, north, right? And you may want to, because of the rising water, and you want to get it down. One of the easiest Christmas hacks that you could think of all time, okay, because everybody has this in their house right now, to do just about anything. Today, we did this on jerkbaits, and we did this on lipless crankbaits, mates, and they both worked lights out. Simple hack. Take your jerkbait. Everyone has Christmas ornaments at the house right now, decorating their trees. The little wire hooks that go on your ornaments, okay, you can wrap around the ends of your treble, okay? The one at the back, you could do the one in the middle. I would not recommend the one in the front, but it basically keeps that jerkbait up in that column a little bit. And here's the fall rate, right? Normally, it's going to fall very, very, very slowly, right? Okay, you've got like 8-pound test to 12-pound test typically if you're throwing a jerkbait, all right? Some people prefer fluorocarbon. Some people prefer monofilament, okay? There are people who will throw jerkbaits now with braid and then with a fluorocarbon leader, or reverse, fluorocarbon and a braid. I think the line also depends. I think, honestly, if you change your line, you will mitigate a lot of the casting distances that you would probably get with a megabass, which is one of its strengths, right? It's really the biggest reasons why I switched from megabass and don't throw megabass as much, because I've been able to find custom bait makers to make the same colorations that I like on megabass, but on better blanks, and I can put my own hooks that I want to run on them, because megabass does have some pretty high-end hooks on them. That's why those megabass baits are $25 to $26.99. And so it's just something you can do to kind of change the rate of fall, okay? Plus, this time right now, because of the clarity of the water, or lack thereof, because of all of the rain and all of the, it's bringing mud and all that stuff down in the winter right now, you want to go with a louder rattle or knocker in your jerkbait. Okay, that's also enticing bites. It's going to pull them off that bank a little bit further out, and they're going to be willing to chase. Okay, so it's very simple. It's just one of these simple hooks that go in your little things that go in your ornaments that you hang on the tree, right? It's wired really easy. Some of them I found, at least in my house, are, man, you need a little bit of help wrapping it around the hook because it's a thicker wire grade, right? But you find the thinner wire grades, you can easily wrap around and keep wrapping it around however much you want. You want to put one, you want to put two on it, depending on how deep. Like for the lake, we're going to go fishing for some wintertime walleyes on Lake Brittle over in Virginia. I'll probably put two of these on the jerkbait, okay? Because I want to get down a lot deeper than where those walleyes are going to be with those jerkbaits. Or you could just throw a deep diver if you've got that. But if you don't, if you just have the jerkbait in your arsenal that's the shallow or the floating, and you can tell by that, see, because that type of set on your bill is going to create a lot of resistance in the water, okay? That's why it doesn't dive, all right? Because the water hits between there, okay? As opposed to your diving ones, which are flat and build out, right? So that just flows through the water and dives its way down, okay? As opposed to hitting all that water and getting all that resistance, which is what's keeping that jerkbait up, okay, in the water column and not letting it dive deeper than 4 feet, okay? But just a Christmas hack you can easily use to modify any of your crankbaits that you really want. But for the jerkbait especially, and we tried it on the lipless crankbait as well, and it just changes a little bit of how the action, okay, from the back and how the action is in the water. I'll be interested to see how that's going to work out when the water clears up a little bit so we can see it a little bit more. We're really just gauging this on the feel right now of what we think it's doing, because it feels different than than if you're throwing your favorite crankbait, or lipless, how it acts. You could tell with your rod the movement of it, right? So it's just a difference to it, and you can feel the difference a little bit. And everybody knows about wintertime fishing in terms of your crankbaits, and jerkbaits as well, in terms of the noise factor. With your crankbaits, it's all about how tight the wobble is or how wide the wobble is, right? So in these rising water conditions now, what you're finding is your smaller crankbaits, okay, your 1.5s, okay, have a very tighter square bill, have a very tighter wobble and a louder knocker, okay? And that's what you want because the water is now dirtied up because of the rising water level. Doesn't matter whether it's the Monocacy, the Allegheny, the Upper Potomac right now, okay? Shenandoah, probably the same, though I have not been down on the Shenandoah for a bit. I'm sure it's experiencing the same thing. Its water levels aren't nearly as high as the Upper Potomac is, so keep that in mind. We'll be going that way here probably for the holidays in the valley, and so it'll be interesting to see what's kind of happening on the Shenandoah. But that's what we're seeing here on the Upper Potomac. Again, 36 to 36.5 degrees today. It's just wintertime fishing. But try this little Christmas hack, with that wire, that tight wire you got on the Christmas tree. Lay that down there, twist that around on that, and you'll see a difference in the action. And also, maybe, depending on your line, depending on the rod, remember, you want to use something like a 6/8 to a 7-foot rod. But if you don't have that and you're using a 6/6 or something like that, that added weight may actually, and your line component, I prefer P line, but I mean, as your line, it may actually increase your casting efficiency and length. And that with jerkbait fishing is a big deal, okay? Especially with smallies. You want to be able to get this and let it work in the water further away from you, okay? So you're not spooking them. Although I will tell you, admittedly, it is a lot harder during these events to spook them than say in the summer, late summer, when the water levels are below 2 feet and they just know your boat's coming, your kayak's coming, that lure's sitting in the water. When the water's rising, there's a lot of noise in the water right now, mates. There is a lot of noise. You've got water breaking against rocks, against timber, against islands, against banks. If the wind picks up, you've got all that noise, okay? So it's less of a concern than, say, in the summertime, but you still want to make sure that you can get a little bit further away from them and work that jerkbait for a while, because they will follow it. Even in the wintertime and they're lethargic, they are opportunistic and they will follow it. And when you find one, this time of year, you tend to find more than one. They do tend to be together. And they do tend to hang out together in the wintertime, as opposed maybe in the summertime when they'll get out and roam and by themselves or ones or twos. And so that's really good. But they are being pushed up against the bank. You will find them. We've not been able to find them along the bank really in that after Thanksgiving Day period. They were mostly in the middle river for most of the time of the sections of the Piedmont. But now you're starting to see, because of the rising water event, them migrating to the banks, pushing, because a lot of that current flow coming down, that could be very, very strong current flow in some sections, and it's just too much. But they're still going to be adjacent to that, but they're going to be closer to the island, an island line, or the actual bank line on the Maryland, or, potentially on the Virginia side. So just a quick Christmas little hack. Everyone can easily do it. It's got a Christmas tree around the house. If they just want to change up a little bit, if they're going out, they just want to change up some kind of like depth profile, fall rate, any of that kind of stuff for any of their hard baits right now during the wintertime. You've got the wiring. Most people probably wouldn't think about it. You don't got to run to the store and get wiring and all that. You pretty much got them. They're always in the box. They always fall off the ornaments anyway. So you probably got some laying around, and just give it a shot. It'll change everything, in terms of the presentation. And sometimes when everybody's throwing the same baits out on your water, okay, sometimes the slightest little difference in change presentation of your bait, does not matter what it is, can be all the difference in the world, in terms of enticing strikes. So that's just it, a little Christmas jerkbait hack. Hope everybody has, if I don't see you or talk to you again, I hope everybody has a great, great holiday. We're really looking forward to the new year, and we hope to see a lot more of you. Appreciate everybody who likes and subscribes to the channel. If you haven't done that, do that. We've got a whole bunch of stuff planned for 2023. We've got a brand new studio, and all of that stuff. It's going to be a lot of different stuff that you're not used to seeing from me. We're going to start doing in 2023. So we really, really look forward to it. All right, mates.